Missing in all of this was a lack of experience or expertise to help us make the best decision in hiring that consultant, to know really what are they saying and what does it really mean. I mean, it's not enough, to be able to ask questions, but you really have to be able to delve and understand that. I would have thought, there's great people within our city, great engineers and things like that. They serve on our water advisory board. I would have thought maybe it might have made sense to have them participate as well to help make that decision. And one other point mentioned, and this is on the pelletizer plant that we just talked about. And it's right, I think it was the right decision to go ahead and utilize the pelletizer plant. It was built, it's operating, even though they did have a problem that shut it down for a while because of an accident there. It made, for me, it makes sense. It was up and it was running, and we could easily utilize it. However, understand this, it's not free. We're going to pay for it. We're still going to have to pay for the pelletization. So it's not that we're going to have all that money saved. We are going to have to pay the cost. So let's make sure that we're talking about everything that's on the table here. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay, get your name.
Commissioner Materio, Mr. Weiss, I'd like to tie in the water and the City Hall, City Hall. Ms. Materio, first, I read in the Post a very short story about you recusing yourself yesterday from the meeting. I'd like to know why. And the other part of that question, knowing the seriousness of the water problem, why would the City Commission even consider going about 5 stories? When the voters twice voted on a 5-story height limit on the old City Hall, why would you even consider going to 15 with that many more people coming in using water that we don't have?
Okay, I appreciate your question. I can't answer the second part to your question, I apologize, but we haven't voted on anything yet. And in fact, I wasn't there to take the final vote, if you remember. So I have no idea what the commission did, but this is what Sandy is speaking of. It's a little bit complicated, and I'll try to do the best I can to encapsulate. I was interviewed on Friday by the Chamber of Commerce. And in the interviewing process, and remember, it's not the Chamber, it's the Chamber's PAC that does the interviewing. The PAC chair, whose name is Clint Black, interviewed me and asked me some very specific... Glass, I'm sorry. Who's Clint Black? Hey.
He's a musician.
Hey. I had music on my mind. Okay, Clint Glass asked me some very specific questions about the height restrictions of the project, about my feelings on the referendum for going against or for the city's vote. And he didn't stop there. He brought it back again and asked me again, about 5 minutes later, some additional questions very specific to a 5-story building. Okay, now, last night we had 3 presentations, 3 hotels. The first hotel was the Navarro Group, and it was a 5-story, beautiful hotel. We had a very good, robust dialogue, and there were a lot of people in the audience, including Clint Glass, who I assumed was there representing the Chamber. The second that came before us was a much taller building, 15 stories. I can't tell you why it wasn't as robust of a dialogue, but it wasn't. And I really didn't have as much to say about it. We talked about it, and we went on to the third. In the third, Mr. Crocker, who you might remember because he built in Boca Raton, Meisner Park, came up to the dais and said, "Let me introduce you to my team." And he introduced Clint Glass. Now, we are in the cone of silence. When there is a project on the table for the City Commission, we are not allowed to have a conversation with the lobbyist, their wife, their dog, their mother, their brother, their sister, your friend who talked to you, anybody that works for that company, their relatives. I mean, it is very, very, very specific ordinance. And Mr. Glass went against that policy and compromised me. And what you should be mad at is the fact that I don't know if he was intentionally compromising me on Friday or if he was just asking me questions, but the man knew that he was on that team and never identified himself as that person. And I didn't get to vote on a project that's very important to this city. So you lost me last night, and I wasn't there to shortlist it. And I did the right thing. I talked to the commission board today. I did the right thing, and I'm not going to be compromised. Thank you for asking.
Gregg?
On the City Hall site, I look at it a little differently. Here's how I would have liked us to have moved forward with this. I want to know, and I would have asked the CRA, and maybe they could have hired a consultant to help them identify what is the amount of economic activity that we want to generate from that site. What does downtown need from that site to contribute in order to have a vibrant and productive economy there? That would be the first thing I'd want to know. Then I'd want to know from them what uses are going to get us there. Is it a hotel? Is it a combination of hotel office space? Is it office space? Is it a combination residential hotel? What are those uses that get us to that economic number, that get us that economic activity? Then the last thing I would know, and it would just fall out of it, is the building envelope size that would get us there. Whether it be a 5-story building, or an 8-story building, or a 10-story building. And then bring it to the voters and say, look, this is what we believe, this is what we understand, we think we need. These are the uses that are going to get us there. This is the size of building that's going to be required to do it. Now, do you agree or don't you agree? And that's how I would have handled it.
Okay, thank you, Gregg.
I'm way back here in the corner, so you can't see me. Hi, my name is Marie Desire. My question for you guys is, as a social worker, what do you guys plan to do about the housing issue in West Palm Beach? Which means, when I say housing issue, low-income housing, and the situation with the homeless.
Did you guys hear that? Yeah. Okay.
Here, I'll get it. The question is about what would we do about homelessness in the city and low-income housing.
Right.
I was the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee last year, and we looked into some opportunities, and we found, and unfortunately our committee was dissolved before we were able to move forward with this. But what we found is that there are other cities that are taking these abandoned homes, these unused homes, and they are buying them up. They are either helping them get funded through private developers to have and develop into low-income housing to rehab them. As it comes to the homeless, let me tell you a story. For many years, I'm involved with the Marathon of the Palm Beaches. I'm a committee chair for them. And one of my responsibilities for a number of years was doing what's called community awareness. So I would go out, and sometimes if you live along the route of the marathon, you get a little flyer on your door. Well, the other thing I did was I was supposed to go out and put flyers on the cars that were along the route to let them know that the marathon was going to be coming through. Well, I went up to Curry Park, because that's along the route that we were using that year, and I started to put flyers on the cars that were parked there. I assume they must belong to the people living nearby or whatever. And about the second or third car I got to, I lifted up the wiper blade, and a head looked up from the back seat at me. And what I realized was there are people, lots of people, sleeping in their cars at Curry Park. And it's a situation that obviously didn't happen overnight. It's not going to be resolved overnight, but it has to take the will of us to get it solved. And I will make it a priority to deal with the homeless in our city. I mean, it was absolutely shocking to see the eyes looking back up at you. It frightened me originally. And of course, obviously I couldn't go and mark the rest of the cars because it's disturbing people in their homes that happen to have been cars. And it's a sad, sad situation. I mean, we have people that can't find jobs in this city. One of the other things I do, I work with disabled people trying to help them find employment. And what happens is, invariably, as I'm working with them, their family members or their neighbors will come up and say, can you help find me a job? Because it's that difficult for many, many people. And so it's something we need to focus on as a community, and as your commissioner, I will make it a priority. I made it a priority in my life this far, and I'll continue to make it a priority.
To respond, right?
Sure.
Sorry. We recently voted on a project downtown for affordable housing that I'm really proud of, and I'm excited it's going to happen. We had to make a zoning change in order for it to happen, but it is for the elderly. And it is off of Hibiscus, and it is got a parking garage in it. It's got a lot of safety features. It's a great affordable housing project. Something we have nothing like this in our city. We seem to think about affordable housing without realizing that it needs to extend to the elderly and retired. So I'm excited about that. I can't remember how many. I think it's over 450 units. It's fabulous. The other thing that I have been working on and is very underutilized in the city is our housing authority. We have a great housing authority that is housed right inside of City Hall. That is underutilized, in my opinion. We have a couple of different programs that are happening, and I know that I even hate to say Dunbar Village, because it breaks all of our hearts to just have that thought again in our mind when we think about the violent crime that occurred there. But it's been totally redone, and it is in the process of revitalization, and they just went to contract on a brand new section that they're going to be breaking ground on and building. So the city is very aware of the housing issues and the homeless issues, and they are taking those things into consideration as we're moving into the future and making changes.
Question to both of you. You believe that the city commission should have access to its own legal counsel, independent of the city attorney? If your answer is yes, why yes? If it's no, why no?
I'd like to answer this one first, because it is, I think last night was the perfect example to the reason why the city commission needs our own city attorney. Keeping in mind that our charter says that our city attorney works at the will of the mayor. She is the mayor's, or he is the mayor's attorney. When I asked for help last night, I got off the dais, went to our city attorney and said, I think I have an ethics issue. She said, absolutely not. You don't have any problems. You never exchanged money with this gentleman. I said, I am not going back to the dais until you tell me you make a phone call and make sure that I'm not going to get in trouble for this. I explained the situation to her. Not a problem. Don't worry about it. We had a little piece of the presentation. I stopped the presentation. I explained to the mayor what was happening very respectfully. I was concerned. I was then told by the mayor, by our city attorney, that she did speak with our ethics counselor, and he said he gave her 3 or 4 reasons why I didn't have an ethics issue. Well, she was right. I didn't, but Mr. Glass did. Mr. Glass broke protocol on every level. And we did not get the right kind of information. Had I voted knowing that, then I would have had an ethics issue. I think, yes, the city commission needs their own attorney. And that is just one very good reason why.
Thank you, Shanon.
I think the issue of a city attorney, or the commission attorney, I think if the commission feels like it needs outside counsel, they should seek it and get it. Again, I look at the process of how we went about and did this, and I would have liked to have asked some questions like, do we have other cities, do we know of other municipalities of how this has been done in the past with a strong mayor and a commission having its own attorney? Has somebody done it before? Let's not reinvent the wheel if we don't have to. That's the first question I would have liked to have asked and understood. The next one is, what's going to happen when there's a conflict between the 2 attorneys? If there's any attorneys in the room, I don't mean to offend you, but it's guaranteed that